In section 5, we're going to look at solving polynomial equations. If you remember in chapter 4, we solved quadratics all the time by different methods. One of the ways that we solved quadratics was by graphing, and another way that we solved quadratics was by factoring. So if I did it by graphing, here could be a picture of a quadratic. The solutions to the quadratic was where it crossed the x-axis. It's no different when we deal with a polynomial. If I ask you to solve a polynomial, I'm asking where does it cross the x-axis? And one of the ways that we can solve polynomials is by factoring. So we're going to look at some factoring techniques that could be used to solve some polynomial equations. Once we look at some factoring techniques, then we will actually solve polynomial equations by factoring. So a couple ways that we can look at solving quadratics by factoring is looking at the sum of two cubes and the difference of two cubes. They're really about the same. The only difference between them is one is a plus and one is a minus. So depending on what sign is given to you, that's how you choose as to which form you're going to use. So I'm looking for perfect cubes. Since we're dealing with cubes, I'm dealing with perfect cube numbers at this point. I'm going to do a couple examples. I'm going to look at 1a. Okay, in 1a, the very first thing that you would want to look for is a greatest common factor. No matter the type of factoring technique that we use, we always look for a greatest common factor first. So between the two terms, I notice that we can take out a 5y from both terms. If we take out a 5y from the first term, I'm left with y cubed minus, if you take 320, divide that by 5, we're going to get 64. And I took out the y, leaving us with z cubed. Notice how in parentheses, this is something cubed, and this is something cubed. So we should be able to use this bottom form here of a cubed minus b cubed, which means that we need to come up with what is a and what is b. So what cubed will get me y cubed? Well, that would be y. And then for b, I need to figure out what number, if I cube it, would get me 64. And that would be 4. You take 4 times 4 times 4, that would get you 64. And I have a variable, z. So when I factor just inside this parentheses, I'm going to have 5y. In my first set of parentheses, I want a minus b. That's from up here. So a minus b would get us y minus 4z. Next set of parentheses, we need a squared. A squared would be y squared plus, now I need a times b, which would be 4yz plus our b squared. Be a little careful here. We got to square both parts. 4 squared would get us 16 z squared. Everything in purple down here is going to represent our answer.